Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Machinal, playing at NY City Center Stage 2. This is directed by Amy Marie Seidel. And as always, I went into this knowing absolutely nothing. No research, there's no program note, no director's statement, nothing. And in this case, it made it a little hard for me to get my bearings. So let me give you some of what you need to know before you make a trip to City Center. Machinal is a 1928 play by Sophie Treadwell, a groundbreaking journalist and playwright who wrote over 60 plays and was one of the most prolific female voices in American theater of her time. This is her best known work, and it's inspired by the real-life case of Ruth Snyder, who was convicted and executed for the murder of her husband. The play had a major Broadway revival in 2014, and now this new production, originally developed at the New York Fringe Festival this past spring, is giving it a scrappy, modern-day downtown treatment. Also worth noting, the script is in the public domain. So if you're a director with a vision and a brave cast, it's yours to play with. And Amy Marie Seidel definitely has a vision for this play. So what is it about? The play follows a young woman who feels suffocated by the expectations placed on her, by her job, by her mother, by a marriage she never wanted. She tries to do what's expected, but every step just makes things worse. Eventually, she makes a drastic decision to free herself. And the second half of the play explores the fallout from that decision. It's about control, resistance, and how easily someone can disappear inside a system that they didn't design. So this production begins with a bunch of desks and chairs and lights stacked up. And it doesn't really ease you in. It starts with a burst of tap dancing and rhythmic speaking. It's kind of like The Music Man meets Thoroughly Modern Millie if those shows were set in a gray corporate dystopia. The performers stomp a beat, they speak in sync. The whole thing is very choreographed and very stylized. I wasn't sure what to make of it, and I did wonder for a while if the whole show was going to be done this way. Thankfully, it's just the opening. It's an unusual choice, but I think the goal was to evoke the sound and repetition of an office, the typewriters, the footsteps, the routine of life, or the machine of life. It was arresting at first, but I started to become wary of it as it kept going on for the whole scene. Now, the casting is also very fluid, with women and non-binary actors playing a wide range of roles, some that are traditionally male. There's no clear logic as to who plays what, just kind of, in a way, it almost feels like they pulled it out of a hat. And it's a little disorienting at first, but once you settle into the world of the show, that becomes part of the experience. Katherine plays the young woman at the center of this story. Her performance is cool and has a stillness to it. It's almost statuesque, which is an interesting contrast to the character's panic and fragility. Also, she's costumed in a kind of pantsuit, which seems more matronly or matriarchal compared to this young woman who's just starting out in the world. But Katherine brings kind of a quiet resolve that adds weight to the final scenes of the play. Now, the acting across the board leans very presentational. This is not naturalistic theater. It's got a lot of physical theater elements in it. And that's not usually my favorite style, but there were moments where I thought it worked really well for this piece. One of the strongest performances comes from Sophie Treadwell, who plays the lover, the prosecutor, and a few other roles. They've got great range, switching physicality, voice, and energy with each character. They make strong choices. Their take on the prosecutor in particular I thought was quite funny. They also have a lovely singing voice and a good sense of comedic timing, which helps in a production that doesn't always lean into the humor as much as it could. Also, they did a really good job of navigating between the truth behind the characters and this presentational way of acting. There are actually some really funny moments in the script, especially with the husband's character, played by Sam Eam. He just repeats a lot of the same phrases over and over and has this ridiculous laugh. And his deadpan monotony was kind of great at making this character even funnier because he's just so ridiculous. But there are other moments where I could feel the humor in the play trying to come through, and it just didn't quite land. There's a scene with the mother, played by Shelley Mitchell, for example. I could tell it was written with irony, but the delivery was so stylized that the humor really got buried. The design of the show is very minimal, but it's very inventive. There's these desks that they push together to create levels. There's a thin sheet of fabric they use as a bed sheet, and then later at the end, it's used very effectively. There are microphones, there's a cello, there's a guitar, there's singing, there's lots of choreography, and a lot of physical theater. The second act I thought worked really well with this style, especially in the court scene, where a court scene is kind of a presentation anyways, and it reminded me a lot of the musical Chicago and the court scene in that. In fact, Chicago has a very similar story about a woman who murders a lover, and it takes place in the Jazz Age. I'm sure Chicago was inspired by Ruth Snyder. I admired a lot of the choices, even when I didn't fully understand them. This is clearly a director who wasn't afraid to experiment. Some of those experiments worked better than others, but I appreciated the commitment. So, was I bored? Was I confused? I was a little bored in the first act because the rhythm of the scene sometimes felt monotonous, repetitive, which I know was the whole point of it, but also because the acting style was so uniform, I just didn't feel emotionally hooked into the story and the characters. And I was confused quite often in the show, partly because I did not know what I was getting into, but once I figured out that it was a re-examination of a classic piece that had also been rewritten, and that it was expressionist, and that it was from the 20th century, I started to understand the stylistic choices a lot better. I also wasn't totally sure what this production was trying to say about right now. Like, why do this play in 2025? Is it because it's in the public domain? Clearly there's something timely here about women being boxed in, about systems that dehumanize people, but I left wanting a stronger argument for what makes this story urgent right now. Still, I'm glad I saw it. It's a unique revival of a play that I didn't know much about, and I came away really wanting to know more about Sophie Treadwell's work. There's a real bite in her writing and a humor that I really enjoyed, and I think this team tried hard to honor that, even if the results were a little uneven. So if you're into experimental, rough and ready downtown theater, or if you just like seeing a rarely produced classic done with a modern twist, then this is worth checking out. It's not polished, it's not easy, but it's definitely inventive. So check out Machinal playing at City Center and let me know what you think. I think you have till maybe the first week of July.
Don't bore me, don't confuse me. If you do, then you lose me. Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me, 'cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.